here, that does look quite cool.
Yep.
Where are we?
We're heading down to Kilmory Knap Chapel. 12th century chapel, but from the headstones we can sort of surmise that it would have been a centre for religion much earlier. There are headstones from early Christian to about 16th century. The roof was taken off the chapel during the Reformation in the 1500s, and from that time on people of grandeur were buried inside the church itself. In the 1930s they decided to salvage as many of the stones outside of interest and protect them by putting a perspex roof on the top. Excuse me, I'm having my lunch.
It's a Jaffa cake.
There'll be a lot of Macmillan graves here. Later on we're hoping to go to Castle Sween, which the Macmillans had it as a stronghold for a while, which is a very interesting castle, looking forward to that. But there's something quite spectacular in here associated with the Macmillans.
Okay.
Let's go.
Spectacular Macmillans.
Obviously quite an important centre of religion if you want to pick out all the cross slabs that held crosses.
Yeah.
There's some quite...
That is the coolest door. That's going to go on your, I have to go on your Facebook album for doors.
Doors of Argyll.
Yeah, Julie likes doors. Let's get a cool door. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. Wow.
Oh,
Wow. No way.
I wasn't expecting it to be so... Whew. That's what's so spectacular. That is MacMillan Cross that was dedicated to Alexander Macmillan. And I'm totally blown away by this place. Wow. These are the earlier stones. And they sort of set everything out pretty much in chronological order. I'm just seeing things that I've researched. I'm like, oh my goodness. They sort of set stuff out pretty much in chronological order. There are wee jobs here that sort of explain what the stones are.
Don't read them, do you?
I've done quite a lot of research on this because I was looking forward to coming. We had discussed when we were at Saddle Abbey that a lot of the stones that were down there, again we'll do a video on this, this was pre-YouTube, we went to Saddle Abbey in Kintyre, but a lot of the fabulous stonemasons on Iona would have been brought down to Saddle Abbey to do a lot of carving. Now this is all local stone. There are those who suspect that the stone was taken to Iona to be carved and brought back. I would suggest that since the Ionan stonemasons, did go to the likes of Saddle Abbey, that they came out here as well. This is one of the earliest examples of their work, and yeah, that's supposed to be one of the Iona guys. 14th, 15th century, that one. But the detail, considering how old it is pretty out there. This is the MacMillan Cross, the Clan Macmillan of Knapp had Castle Sween as their stronghold in the 1450s. At the top of this cross, you can see Mary on the left hand side and what is a depiction of St John on the right hand side, with obviously Christ crucified in the middle.
He's got really big hands.
On this side you'll obviously Celtic knotwork. Right in the centre of the Celtic knot is a dog chasing its tail. So Mr Macmillan was obviously very fond of his dogs. There is obviously the depiction of stems and leaves, which is obviously a depiction of creation, which we've discussed on the other crosses. But as we travel further down, the detail on the deer and the hunting dogs, and there he is himself with his axe. You can see Gaelic just underneath him. I'm actually blown away.
Is that the original cross?
Yes, this is the original cross. It had sat outside until 1981, and it was brought indoors in 1981.
That's the original cross. It's
stunning.
not a recreation end.
Yeah.
That is mental. There's a detail on that dog.
What it does say in the Gaelic is this is Alexander Macmillan's cross. It's too worn down, and my pronunciation of Gaelic is not perfect enough to do it justice. You could ask, how did Clan Macmillan afford such beautiful crosses? And obviously they were of some standing in the area. Alexander Macmillan's ancestor, Malcolm Moore, he was actually given the lands by the Lord of the Isles in 1360. So obviously they had, quite a lot of something standing in where the Lord of the Isles was concerned anyway. That cross is just... This is a cross you recognise from our last place.
One of the Templar crosses.
It's presumed to be a Templar cross. That's called a cross pate or pate. Obviously French because of the Templars. But again, really quite stunning. It is actually the only stone that isn't from Kilmory.
Oh, right.
It's actually from Acnamara, slightly further up the road that
yeah.
you were having trouble pronouncing earlier on.
That one, yeah.
So that's where they find that one.
Oh, right, cool.
There is another headstone here that is related, it's presumed is related to the Knights Templar. I'm going to find it now. Okay. When we're discussing the Lord of the Isles, I would draw your attention to these headstones. Both have the Berlin on them, which is obviously the Highland Galley. Mm-hmm. And that would apparently have shown allegiance to the Lord of the Isles if you had one of these on your grave slab.
Oh, of course, the McDougalls had them on theirs.
Yeah. Also things like we have some Celtic crosses, some animals, and some shears, which is presumed to be sort of a subtle suggestion of what these guys were doing as a living when they weren't wielding their swords for the Lord of the Isles or the Macmillans or whoever they were part of the clan to.
So they were sheep farmers and...
Sheep, well, the shears might be sheep shears, or they could be clothiers. And I think what's nice about a lot of headstones today, it says John Brown died 1947, and that's it. These headstones have a clear indication what they did in their day-to-day life as well. Talking about Knights Templar.
Yeah.
The general consensus is that the symbol for the Knights Templar is this L shape symbolising a set square.
Yeah.
Which again is a denotation that he was probably a Knights Templar. Obviously all this is, historians think these and surmise these and hope that they're going to be right.
Actually, I'm just looking at the cross on that as well. Underneath the figure of knight.
Yeah, that's the Knights Templar Cross, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yes. Basically tells you the guy's story. He was a knight of the Templar. There's his Templar Cross. And obviously he supported the Lord of the Isles.
And he's standing on the dog.
And he's standing on a dog. He must have been an animal lover like yourself. Kilmory, where we are. Kill is from the Kill meaning church.
Yeah, church, yeah.
Moray is from our friend who we've met before, St Milruva.
Oh, jeez. Right, okay.
These are very oldest of the stones, very early Christian. Even though this is what's left of a 1200s church, they do believe that there was a Christian settlement here well before the year 1000 AD. This is a very unusual 15th century slab. Do you see what he's missing compared to all the others?
A sword.
Yeah. This guy is clearly a craftsman. He's wearing civvies. Before you said, yes, he does appear to have really short legs. But he's another John, like we met in the last bit of carved rock. The inscription obviously has gone, but they managed to get enough of it before it became weathered. That it does say Johannes on it, and that he's John. Obviously, he was somebody of standing to warrant. I have never seen relief that depth on a headstone before, or a grave slab. This one here, again, it's presumed 14th, 15th century. What you notice about him is his robes are down to his ankle. They presume this would have been a bishop or one of the more important guys that, you know. This is an interesting one. This is very much like the slabs that we saw in Kilmartin as well, where they once belonged to somebody and then they belonged to the Campbells.
Oh, yeah. Aye.
This is sort of a massive attempt at clothing shears.
Oh, right.
It was carved apparently for Henry Tulloch, who was a clothier in the 14th century.
Right.
If you go down to the bottom though, you will see hammer and tongs and an anvil.
Yeah.
Yes. Because it was reused by Christianus Faber. And his metalwork tools were carved into the bottom of it.
Oh, right. Well, we've seen that before.
Yeah.
Where they've taken...
They sort of reuse and add to.
But they take the grave slab and stood it up and carved and used it as a headstone. So, yeah. In fact, where was that? Was that Edgerton or something we saw that first up north?
I can't remember. Obviously, we've seen various indications of the Knights Templar, and the west coast of Scotland doesn't seem to be the most obvious place for Knights Templar to be about. Some historians are sticking their neck out and surmising that there was quite a good link between the west coast and these guys. I'll tell you why. Right, at the time, on these shores, Robert the Bruce had just murdered the Red Common. Pope Clement V had excommunicated him from the church. He had condemned everything Scottish. At the same time, on the continent, our knights of the Templar were not making themselves the most popular, and they had to escape and flee France. And they presume a lot of them maybe came up the Irish Sea and landed in the likes of the east coast of Ireland, but a lot of them landed in the west coast of Ireland. Both them and Robert the Bruce, obviously not feeling like the best friends of Clement V, they would have had things in common. There are other historians also who are sticking their neck out and saying that weapons from Knights Templar were starting to come from Ireland over here at that time, and that there is a chance that Robert the Bruce could have been flanked by Knights Templar at the Battle of Bannockburn. Now, records don't prove anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, everywhere we're going, we're seeing various bits of what could possibly be evidence of the Knights Templar, and it's up to people to make their own mind up. I am saying what I have researched. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying I would really like it to be true, because that makes history so much more interesting.
Yeah, that's got me thinking about when Robert the Bruce died. He wanted his heart taken to the Holy Land, because he'd never been on crusades.
Yeah.
But he wanted after he died for his heart to be taken there. Can I wonder why would he do that? And if it wasn't possibly influenced
Was
by
it a basic
Templars?
religious thing, or was it influence? We'll never know.
Yeah, that would be interesting to find out though.
Wouldn't it? If these stones could talk.
Right.
This cross was carved, again, it's the Iona school of carving. It was for Duncan Macmillan and his father Malcolm, and it was carved, they presume, around 1505.
Alright.
I don't know whether you can pick it up that well, but it does show a rider with a spear.
Can't really see him, to be honest. So the back.
There's somebody with a, you can see somebody there.
Can't really make it out, but then again I'm blind as a bat.
This is a 15th century slab as well. It depicts a priest. You can obviously see he's praying. And surprise, surprise, another Iona school.
Oh right, yeah.
And if you pan along the edges there, you can actually see the detail that he had like heavily enriched robes that he was wearing. This slab here is not the Iona school. Surprise!
Alright.
Remember the beautiful crosses we saw down at Kilmartin Church?
Yes.
They were the Lochawe
Oh right,
School
yeah. Up by
of
us.
Masonry. This one is the Lochawe School of Masonry.
How do they know? It's
Well, I
just the
suppose
style of carving, or?
I would imagine it's like a style of carving, the same as someone can tell who has written a letter by their style of handwriting.
Yeah, I suppose.
This is another 15th century boy, and you can see the shears very, very clearly at the bottom, and the comb, which would indicate sheep and wool.
Comb? Oh, right, oh, yeah, I was thinking comb for hair. I was like, what? This particular knight was very well groomed. I don't know.
This is a locally carved one. We can see a dog quite clearly. A comb with a bird on it. Don't ask me the significance because nobody knows. We have shears, which obviously either a clothier or in the sheep in a big way. That sounds wrong. But you know what I mean. There's a round mirror.
Oh, is that, so that's this way
Yeah,
there? Right.
that would be signifying a mirror. The dog apparently has a bell on his neck. You can't actually you can't necessarily see it, but you can feel it. And then there's two random animals whose tails turn into the usual foliage that we see in many of the headstones. This one here, it's also very interesting. Ionan carvery, 14th, 15th century. It was made for a John Carpenter and his brothers Mac Mower, and what is strange is Christinus Faber appears again, even though he was supposed to be in the last one. John Carpenter's trade is referred to in the carving of a block of wood. There's two axes to the left of the sword hilt. You've got your wood and your axes. So that's what he did in his days off.
Silly question, but how do they know the name of the guy who that belonged to? Or any of them?
Well, in sort of 1700s, there were a lot of the graves that had been logged, and the headstones and that had been logged.
Right.
Plus our friend Marion Campbell.
Oh, of course.
And Mary Sandeman were down here doing really very, very detailed surveys. So what we didn't get in the 1700s, I would imagine Mrs. Campbell and Sandeman got them in the 1930s, 1940s.
No.
Just a wee quick one. Our soldier here is one of the Loch School carvings. I would imagine the relief on that would have been quite substantial when you look at the sort of ears that they find in the graveyard.
That's quite cool.
This is, again, 14th, 15th century, bringing another school in, the Kintyre School this time.
Right.
What is very interesting about this is we have an otter and a salmon. So he was obviously a fan of the great outdoors on his days off.
Oh, right.
The salmon is actually very anatomically correct for the 14th, 15th century.
What's baffling me is the level of detail on the carving up here for the chainmail.
Yeah, it's very clear
intricate.
It's very clear that the amount of detail before weathering must have been really stunning. If you catch them around here, look at that magnificent MacMillan Cross needs a magnificent cross slab to hold it. We're just going to paddle over to it now. The views are just spectacular. The churchyards in Scotland always seem to have gorgeous views. But anyway, the cross slab. Really quite a magnificent edifice, which it would need to be because that MacMillan Cross is quite a magnificent cross. It is said that when it was in the corner of the chapel here, that it could be seen from out at sea. Did you notice anything unusual when we were in there about all of those headstones?
No.
We were all discussing men.
Yeah.
Where were the women?
Do they get headstones?
Nope.
They don't at all?
Turns out in those days, unless you were really, really on top of the food chain, that you got buried with your husband, and quite often there wasn't even a mention of your existence. Which is...
Right. Yeah. It was Kilmory Knap Chapel. Or the ruins of it.
Yeah, not worth going to see. Nothing there really.
No history in there at all. There was nothing to see. Final word on the chapel.
Well, that's still going. It was just so stunning. I think because research had been done in the past as well as the sort of the distant past as well as the close past, we can learn much more about the people. And we're not in the position that we're saying, oh, you know, this is a Knights Templar. Like, this is a Knights Templar, but he used to make clothes when he wasn't out templing.
Yeah.
You know, this is John Boy Walton. He was a sheep shearer, but they've got names.
Yeah.
They've got people, they've got stories. I think it's quite an emotive place. I'm a wee bit wibbly.
I just thought it just looked really cool.
I'm just blown away.
Yeah. Where next?
Castle Sween in the dark.
All right. Left that a bit late today. Well, we never left it a bit late. We just put too many places on the list.